Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Abuse of authority in the Army is a serious offense. In the first story, our OP was bullied by his sergeant, and what happened to him, we will tell next. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. You don't have to agree, but you do have to sign. This story goes back to the early days of my time in the Army. After basic training, you go off to learn how to do your job. You have a little bit more freedom, but instead of having to do physical exercise when you mess up, they like to throw paperwork at you in hopes of getting you kicked out. I had a platoon sergeant that absolutely hated me. For good reasons, of course. I was loud and didn't deal with bullcrap well, so I was constantly calling them out on anything and everything that didn't make sense or broke rules. About halfway through training, I went to formation in the wrong uniform. Short-sleeve PT shirt instead of the long-sleeve one. And he told me I would receive my counseling the next morning. Not really a big deal since it doesn't hurt my career, it's just a written warning. Well, that night he was also the sergeant doing bed checks, and part of bed checks is showing him your ID to prove it's you, I guess. He walks by everyone's room and then goes back downstairs. All is quiet, and I just have to wake up early to sign my counseling. Then morning comes. I go downstairs and he informs me that I'm receiving a counseling not for being in the wrong uniform, but for insubordinate conduct towards a non-commissioned officer. This is also known as an Article 91 and is punishable by losing rank, pay, extra duty, or getting kicked out. I'm instantly awake and freaking out as I have no clue where this came from. I'm reading the paperwork and it says that during bed checks he saw me flipping him off based on how I was holding my ID card, as in the middle finger was with the rest behind the card. I did no such thing and said as such. He told me I had no choice and had to sign the paperwork whether or not I agreed with it. The form has a spot for me to write to, though, and has a box to either agree or disagree with the counseling. So I took full advantage of this despite the pressure from him to just sign it and move on. 2 weeks go by while it's processing, and I'm miserable the entire time, and he of course taunts me at every chance. It's at this time I'm called into the first sergeant's office. Think boss's boss, and he's grilling me about how bad of a soldier I am and that I'm lucky to be in the military, but he's going to let me tell my side of the story. As I'm telling my side, he stops me to ask a question. You mean he didn't mention any of this to you until the next morning? I replied as such that I didn't even know about it till the morning. He dismissed me after another threat saying that the paperwork would remain on his desk until I graduated and would be processed if I asked up again. Then he called my platoon sergeant in. I don't know what was said, but it's obvious that he had effed up by not addressing it the night before. After that, my platoon sergeant's attitude got even worse and he became an absolute nightmare. But that ended up working to my advantage when he called me out in front of the full formation and flicked me off. I didn't have to do anything after that. His fellow sergeants passed that story on to the upper ranks and he was gone within a month. Next time I saw him, he was a rank lower and peeing on a different group of students. Within a year, he'd been discharged. And our second story. Oh, so you decided to steal one of our parking spots? Enjoy your ticket, courtesy of the Vigilante Valet Service. This happened about 7 or 8 years ago. Where I went to college, football is basically a religion. During home games, parking fills up for several miles around the stadium. Tailgating, parking space gets reserved on a first-come, first-served basis, and people camp out days in advance to rope off territory. Once you've roped off your spot, you may consider it claimed, and you don't have to stay there. My tailgating group had laid claim to a patch of grass and a half-dozen parking spots. We'd followed all rules and regs and were totally within our rights. Well, the morning of the game, we arrived to discover that some jerk had driven over our ropes and parked his car in one of our spots. We were none too happy about this, and we got an idea. Our group consisted of a dozen young, strapping dudes, half of whom were power lifters. So what did we do? We picked that crap up and moved it. It was some small, lightweight Japanese import. Don't recall specifically. And we were able to lift it just enough to fully extend the suspension and cause the tires to break contact with the ground. We carried it about 50 feet away and parked it illegally. A little while later, a cop came by and ticketed him. The cop was very confused as to why we were waving at him with crap-eating grins while he wrote out the ticket. After the game ends, Mr. Jerk comes walking up, looks around in bewilderment, then spots his car nearby. He starts swearing up and down when he sees the ticket and summons a nearby cop, a different one. We sat there and watched with bubbling delight as Mr. Jerk tried to convince the cop that he shouldn't get a ticket because that's not where he left his car. And clearly someone else put it there. Obviously, the cop rolls his eyes and tells Mr. Jerk that's the worst excuse he's ever heard. Mr. Jerk then came over to our group and asked, with some hesitation, "Did you move my car?" We looked at him like he was crazy and explained that was clearly impossible since his car was still locked and hadn't been hot-wired or anything. Looking even more confused, he walked away to go get in his car and leave. When Mr. Jerk was nearly out of earshot, a buddy of mine just couldn't contain himself any longer and proclaimed, just loud enough for the guy to hear, "Now that's what I call a manual transmission." Mr. Jerk turned around, gave us a slack-jawed death glare, realized there was absolutely nothing he could do about it, and drove away. Remember, kids, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. I love that you played dumb afterwards. Makes the revenge so much sweeter. And our final story. "Ma'am, that's not on the menu." "I don't care. Give it to my kid." A bit of backstory. Me, my wife, my friend, and my friend's wife, me and my friend have been friends since the 2nd grade, kinda collectively own a small coffee shop in a small town in Canada. All of the food and coffee we make is made in the kitchen by hand, and there are only ever the 4 of us. We all have our little duties, so the place runs fine, if a bit slow. My wife and I make all the food, while my friend makes the coffee and roasts the beans, and my friend's wife, who's the only non-introvert among us, works as a cashier. It's a roaring good time, and I really can't think of a job I'd rather have. Anyway, we're a fairly popular place, and due to our ways of making food, we usually sell out by 11 in the morning or so. We still have the occasional sandwich or sausage roll left, but it's mostly gone. On to the main story. One Monday afternoon, we were just kind of chilling. My friend's wife was sick, so I was manning the front. I have no people skills, but I was doing okay. We were just making the food and coffee, telling jokes, and generally having a good time. Of course, that was quickly stopped by a dark presence entering the shop. The cast. Karen, entitled mother. SEB, stupid entitled brat. Friend, cool coffee dude. Wife, generally just amazing human. BOD, random old black dude. Me. Karen walks in with SEB, and the following conversation ensues. Karen, "Hi, can I have 2 sausage rolls, a Greek salad, and an extra large espresso?" This is a good time to mention that all the food we have is displayed in a glass case, and there were clearly no sausage rolls or Greek salads. Me. "Sorry, ma'am, we only have the espresso left. Would you still like one of those? Or a sandwich? We still have a few of those left." Karen, "But the menu outside says that the sausage roll is your daily special." Me. "Yeah, so they sold out quickly. If you wait 5 or 10 minutes, we can make you a fresh one." SEB. "Mommy, I want one now." Karen. "Give SEB one. The board says you have them." Me, slightly exasperated. "Ma'am, I've told you, we're sold out of sausage rolls and Greek salads. Do you want a sandwich?" SEB. "Mommy, I'm really hungry. I want a sausage roll." Karen. "I know you have some. You're probably hiding them so you can eat them yourselves. You also probably spit on all your food. Now give SEB one now." Me, totally done with her. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Also, why do you want one if we spit in them?" Karen, doing the standard Karen screech. "F you! I'm not leaving until my angel gets his food. He's had great grades and deserves to be happy. If you keep hoarding it, I'll report you to the police for discrimination and cooking without a license." Me and my friend, both totally in shock. What? Now we have our cooking license thing hanging on the wall right above the counter, so I have no idea what she was talking about. Karen, looking smug. "That's right. Now give me a sausage roll, now." Me. Ma'am, our license is right there. I point to the license hanging right above me. Karen, that looks fake. You probably forged it. Now, this is when this B.A. old dude comes up to her. B.O.D. Ma'am, I don't know if you have dysfunctional eyes or if you're just stupid, but they have a real license right there. He points to it with his cane. Karen, turning around to look at him, this isn't your problem, old N-word. And then the total B of a human slapped him. This effing B had the audacity to slap him. Me and my friend just stood there in shock while Karen was glaring daggers at us. SEB, I'm really, really hungry, Mommy. I need food now. Karen tried to reach over the counter to grab a sandwich when a hand stopped her. My wife walked out of the kitchen, and a bomb blew up behind her as action music played. Kidding, it's just for drama. Now, my wife is African American, so she took her comment very seriously. Wife, get out now. Karen, I don't think so. Who do you think you are? Wife, the person that will report you to the police for assault, attempted theft, and about 5 other charges. Now get out of the store. Now, normally my wife is easygoing and really nice. This was probably the most serious I've ever seen her, and I was kind of scared. Me and my friend were just kind of watching this, wishing we had popcorn. Karen turned slightly pale and simply said, "Come on, SEB, let's go eat somewhere good." Just as they were leaving, the old man, who'd just gotten back up after sitting down due to the slap, called after them, "Hey, you wanted a sausage roll?" And then threw his half-eaten one right at Karen's head. Well, let me tell you, Karen's Karen screech was the most beautiful sound I've ever heard. Well, that's my story. Sorry there was no police called or anything, but I still found it funny. Side note, I never worked at the counter again. That man deserves another sausage. I hate people who think good grades mean their child deserves the world. Keep up the good work. Hope your shop continues to be successful. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.